Not a thing.
All right, folks. So I'll give you back to the boss. That over to you, Emma, and thank you very much indeed.
No problem. I am Emma. I'm one of the community OTs in the Ballycastle area. Um, so this is a very informal chat. As Una had said, I was involved with her sort of over the last recent months, and her and Tom kindly asked me to come on and just give you a brief overview of what community OT is. Some of you maybe already know, or maybe just don't really have an idea of what sort of the service is or who it's available to or what you can get from it. So as I say, I'm just gonna go through sort of our role in OT and what we can help with our assessment process, and sort of examples of the help that we can give. So feel free to ask any questions. I will try my best to give an answer. But as I say, it's just to let you know sort of another thing that's available for you from the health service, if you need it, and whether it's now or in the future or whatever. So yes, I have been working in the Ballycastle area in the Northern Trust for almost 8 years now. Um, Mostly community since I left university as well. So there's loads of different areas of occupational therapy. Community is just one wee bit. Um, so really sort of the general role of occupational therapy is to support people to focus on everyday tasks that they find difficult. So um, and then our sort of thing is to try and help those people overcome those challenges. So it's really about problem solving and helping people find solutions. So that would sort of be what occupational therapy is in a general term. When it comes to the role of community OT, we're all about sort of supporting people to live as safely and as independently as possible, whether that be in their own home environment, or we also see people in residential homes or nursing homes. But as I say, the big crux of what we do is all about maintaining independence and making sure you're safe as well. So I think that's sometimes what people maybe at the start, whenever they get referred to community OT and we come out and we assess and we start offering bits and pieces of equipment and stuff, people probably can be a wee bit like, oh, this is going to take away my independence. But it's the exact opposite. Everything that we do is to try and keep your independence, keep you doing those things that you do day to day, what we call activities of daily living. So just your normal run of the mill day to day things that you probably don't think twice about. Um, so our service in community OT is open to anyone over the age of 18 and over, sorry, and who are living with a physical disability of permanent or lasting feature. So obviously the likes of yourselves with the pulmonary fibrosis. So and yous are obviously all well aware of how much that can affect just the simple things day to day. So our whole thing would be trying to put bits and pieces in place to make those day to day things and the important things to use as easy and as straightforward as possible for you that you maybe would have found easier earlier in sort of your diagnosis or before you got diagnosed, is to keep you doing those things for as long as possible. Um, so in terms of the actual assessment process, I'll go through all the boring bits first. So like how you get assessed and what our assessment is. So um you can refer yourself to our service. So I know that some of the health services you require like you have to go through your GP or whatever, but we take self-referrals. So you can ring and refer yourself directly to us, or someone can make the referral on your behalf as long as they have your consent. So that could be family members, caregivers, or professionals. So if you are in with your GP or you're seeing a physio or whoever it is, they can also refer you to our service as well. So it is just about ringing and giving sort of a brief overview of the difficulties that you are having, like sort of the day-to-day things with in and around the home. And then when you would then get put onto our waiting list. So whenever you get to the top of our waiting list, an OT then would be in contact to complete an assessment. So as I say, I work in the Northern Trust. There may be sort of differences in sort of how everybody works within each trust. But I know that in our trust, what we do is we give you a ring initially. So we'll give you a telephone call and introduce ourselves, confirm obviously that you're happy enough with the referral being made and all of that. And then on that initial call, we'll just go through bits and pieces like sort of the layout of your house. That's very important to us in terms of whether it is a bungalow or a two-story or all of those sorts of things. We'll have just a general chat about how you're managing day to day and the difficulties that you're having. And then what we do is we arrange to call out and see you in your home. So what we ask you to do is we like to see how you do things. So how you're carrying out your everyday tasks. So then that gives us an idea of how you're doing those things and the difficulties that you're having. I know that sometimes people, whenever we say, so can you show me how you're getting on and off the toilet? People are like, do you need me to go to the toilet? We don't need you to do that. We just need you to show us your what we would call transfers as such. So it very much is us seeing how you do those things and then us picking up, right, okay, you're having difficulties with this, or no, you're doing this okay. Sometimes people don't realize that they're having difficulties with things. So when it comes to just back to the example of getting on and off the toilet, sometimes people think, oh well, I just pull on the wash hand basin or I lean on a hand or a windowsill, but I'm fine doing that. Whereas to us, that sort of says you're maybe just looking for a wee bit of additional support. So that's whenever we would pick up, right, that's maybe a wee bit difficult. So what are the possible solutions to that? So the toilet is one thing we look at, but other examples of what we look at. So generally we look at your mobility, so how you're managing getting in and around the house between the rooms. Um, are you furniture walking? Are you reaching for the wall? Are you doing things like that? And also how you're managing sort of with out and about, outdoor mobility. If you are in a property with stairs, we would look at how you're managing that. We look at the access in and out of your home. So some houses don't have steps. Other houses I have been to have 13 steps going up to it. So access in and out of your house is really important as well too. And then the transfers as well that I was talking about. So how you're managing in and out of bed, on and off your chair, the toilet, and then also how you're managing in and out of the bath or the shower, depending on what facilities that you have. We also look at how you're managing with those sort of day-to-day personal care tasks. So the simple things like how you're managing standing to brush your teeth or wash your face at the wash hand basin, those sort of smaller tasks that you don't really maybe think two things about. And then also the other tasks such as like your meal prep, how do you find standing in the kitchen to make a cup of tea or make the bigger sort of meals like dinner and things like that. So that's sort of the assessment process in a nutshell and the things that we look at. So moving on from that, then after we do the assessment, then it's very much working with the client and saying, right, well, how can we help? So an important thing to say, and I remember saying it to you in a, oh, sorry. Does anybody have a wee question there? Or? It's okay. I'll move on. Yes, whenever we do an assessment, we'll always suggest things that we think will help. And I know definitely with you and me and you talked about all the things in that initial assessment, and we're very aware that you've maybe never had to be assessed by anybody or be offered all of these things. You could be early on in your diagnosis as well too. So we're very aware that we could be coming in and saying, oh, you can have this, 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 and this, and this, and it might be all like quite overwhelming at the start. We're very aware that if it is, you are well, like we work with the client and what we will suggest what we think will help, but at the same time, our assessment and our treatment is all holistic and it's client centered. So if there are things that you think, yes, I'm aware that maybe that is available to me, but I'm just not ready for it right now. That's 100%. Like it's just so that you know everything that is available to you. And everybody is different in terms of where they're at in their function and each client is assessed on their individual needs as well too. So I'm obviously going through everything sort of generally here, but as I say, don't feel like, oh God, if I'm offered these things, do I need to take them right away? It's not, like I say, everything that we do is very client centered and it's working with the client, not telling you what you need and you need to take this, if you know what I mean. So how we can help. So there's loads of different ways that we can help. Starting off small with really just even providing advice on easier ways to do certain things. So your day-to-day tasks. So the likes of, instead of maybe bits and pieces of cleaning, like I know that I myself am one for doing this. I'm expecting, so I need to listen to my own advice sometimes. But cleaning tech, for instance, maybe breaking that down into smaller tasks. I know that sometimes people like to clean the whole house all in one go, but with certain conditions, your function maybe just doesn't allow you to do that anymore, especially with pulmonary fibrosis in terms of your shortness of breath or your exercise tolerance and things like that. So it's maybe thinking, well, can we break certain tasks down? Can we do things in smaller chunks? Or even just modifying certain tasks. So can we do things in sitting rather than standing? So again, you're still doing all of these things, your important tasks that you like to do day to day, but it's just changing how you do them. We can signpost and refer on to other services. So whether that is referring on to the likes of like physio or social work, those sort of things as well too. And then sort of the physical stuff from a community OT point of view, we can look at the provision of equipment. So there's loads of different bits and pieces of equipment that we can look at, and also recommendations for different bits of adaptations to the home. So all of this, as I said, is very much dependent on the client themselves, how they're managing. And then we obviously have sort of regional criteria that all of the trusts all work to the same criteria in terms of what we can provide and who we can provide it to and all that sort of stuff. So um, equipment. So examples of equipment, there's so much. This is not an exhaustive list. I've just tried to generalize it so it's not so wordy. In terms of your mobility, so we can look at mobility aids, anything from walking sticks up to wheeled walking aids. And then if people are having difficulty sort of within and outdoor mobility and walking aids maybe aren't meeting the needs anymore, then we can assess for wheelchairs as well too. In terms of toilet equipment, so we have various bits and pieces of equipment. Everybody's layout of their bathroom is so different. So we can look at different bits and pieces that can attach onto the actual toilet or frames that go around the toilet, all to really help. Either sometimes people are very tall and the standard toilets are quite low. So our equipment can either raise the height of your toilet, or and then also just for providing the support. Just so, as I was saying, sometimes people reach for toilet roll holders or radiators and things like that. And to us, obviously, that would be saying that you need just that wee bit of extra support, and those things can come loose over time, which we have seen. So that's what the equipment for the toilet would look at. Bathing and showering, so obviously depends on the facilities that you have. So sometimes people have just standard baths, or they would have a shower unit over the bath, or you may have a cubicle type shower. So there's loads of different bits and pieces. We have different types of shower seats. Obviously would be dependent on the size of the shower that you have, whether that would be feasible. But all of the equipment, we take it out, we try it. Is it going to work? If that bit doesn't work, we can look at other things. So there's the shower seats. We have things called bath boards that say if you have an overbath shower, it literally sits on the edge of your bath. And instead of you trying to climb in and out of the bath to stand to use the shower, what you do is do the whole transfer and sitting. So again, it's all these bits of equipment is all about modifying how you do things to make those transfers easier. It's not to take away your independence. It's to keep you doing those things as safely and as independently for as long as possible. Sometimes as well, if people just have a bath and they don't have anything else, and getting in and out of the bath is extremely difficult and it's causing you to be extremely short of breath or anything, we have powered bath lifts as well. So again, it all just very much depends on how you're managing the setup that you have, but each individual OT would assess everybody on their needs. Equipment for the bed. So there are things to help with getting you in and out of the bed. It's called, well, there's two bits. There's a bed lever or a bed stick. So that's to give you sort of a support at the side of the bed to pull yourself in and out. So with that actual transfer, getting in and out of bed, that's a great bit of equipment. Um, and then also a foam wedge, because I know sometimes a lot of people can't tolerate with that lying flat, and you're maybe finding that you're pumping yourself up with a load of pillows, but not all the time, they'll not always hold their shape. Whereas the foam wedge is literally that's what it is. It's just a solid piece of foam that can hold its shape a lot easier. So if you are finding that you can't tolerate lying flat in bed, that'll just give you that wee bit of an incline so that you're sitting up and hopefully can breathe that wee bit easier. And then one of the other bits of equipment that we would give out quite regularly is a perching stool. So it's a really versatile bit of equipment. It can be used in the kitchen. So again, talking about like sitting to do your meal prep, whether that is the 5 minutes to make a cup of tea or a bowl of cereal, or if you are finding that, say, you're making like soups or larger meals that take maybe a lot of prep where you're peeling spuds or peeling carrots, all that sort of stuff. You can sit to do those things at the kitchen counter rather than feeling like you really need to rush through things because you're feeling like you're tired or you're out of breath. They can also be used in the bathroom, so sitting at the wash hand basin to brush your teeth. Or if you're just not getting a full shower or bath that day, sitting to get a body wash at the sink. And also for the likes of ironing, you can sit to do those things. All of our equipment as well is height adjustable. So it's very much like you can adjust. Now, obviously, the likes of kitchen countertops are a wee bit different because we adjust it to your height, not the height of like your kitchen countertop or anything like that. But as I say, it's one bit of equipment, but we assess it for you and what you need. So it can be used for loads of different things, which is great. So as I say, that's not an exhaustive list whenever it comes to the equipment, but that would be the most sort of frequent thing we would give out. Moving on then to adaptations. So again, they can range from small things up to slightly more larger. So just when we were talking there earlier about access in and out of your house, if you're finding that you are going up and down the steps, but you're maybe holding to the door handle to help you on the step, or you're maybe like holding the walls to help get you up, that's whenever we would assess for the likes of maybe a grab rail or a handrail that can span the length of the steps, just to give you that wee bit of extra support. We can also, as I was saying there, just in terms of like your everybody's bathrooms layout a wee bit different. So we can also, if equipment maybe isn't going to work, we can look at putting rails at the toilet or in the bath or the shower, again to help with those transfers or to give you a wee bit more support when you're standing, say in the shower or anything like that. Um, if you have stairs, if you have a two-story property or anything like that, we can assess for additional stair rails. So if you maybe only have the banister on one side, but you're feeling like that isn't enough support, we can assess and see if you meet the criteria for a second stair rail. And then on down the line, if your condition progresses or if you're already at the stage where stair mobility is a real difficulty, then we can look further at assessing for the likes of home lifts and things like that. So it's very much, as I say, dependent on clients' needs, but larger adaptations can then be assessed for as well. So the likes of level access showering or ramped access provision, things like that. Just important to remember with those things, that process sort of it varies depending on the likes of like the tenure of your house, whether that is owner occupied or if it's housing executive or housing association. And as I say, we assess each client specific to their needs, and there's varying levels of what we would recommend depending on sort of the criteria and stuff like that. So that really is sort of a very general overview of what we do in community OT. But I think what I want to say, like most importantly to remember, is things can always be reviewed and reassessed. So your condition isn't always going to be static. Things we know that as time goes on, each individual client, their needs can change. Um, and that may be within a short space of time, it may be within a long space of time, but it's just knowing that you can always be referred back to the service. So, um, what I like just taking Una as an example. So, I was involved there recently in recent months. The case is closed for now, but Una knows that if and when things change, if equipment needs reviewed, if we just need to review the assessment in general, all that Una or Tom has to do is ring and then a new referral gets opened up. So that's what I was saying at the start. If you're just at the stage where you know that these things are maybe available, but you're just not in that headspace to think, I just don't want these things just yet. It's not a case of if you say no, that's it, done and dusted. It's absolutely not the case. So it's just knowing that if and when you're ready, or as I say, if things change and you need reviewed, you can always come back to us. So, as I say, whether it's through that self-referral process, or whether you get referred, by somebody else, as long as they have your consent. So, as I say, that's kind of I've only ever worked in the Northern Trust, so that process is kind of probably specific to in terms of like our assessment process and everything. But the criteria throughout the whole of Northern Ireland is the exact same as I say it's regional. So um hopefully it's been of a benefit. If anybody has any questions at all, just ask away. I'll try my best to answer. But hopefully it gives you sort of a wee bit of an idea of what we can help with.
Is any, would anybody like to ask a question?
Can you hear me, Anna?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
I just wanted to ask them a question reference. I rang up about 8 or 9 weeks ago
Yeah.
to Grantcha because I have an occupational therapist and I told them about Trish and they were to get back to me and they still haven't got back.
Was that you were just ringing just for what was it? Broke up a wee bit there. Were you
I
just
was
ringing?
ringing up. I was ringing up to get her, no, because I'm already have an occupational therapist. I rang up
Mhm.
and I explained all about to the person on the phone, all about Tracy had sat there and she's actually she's more longer than I have and
Uh-huh.
could get somebody out, to assess her,
I would
reference
just
everything.
I would just ring if you haven't heard anything back. I always tell people because I know that sort of different teams have obviously different what happens is well I don't know if you were saying so you have an occupational therapist, did you say?
Yeah, I have one mind as well. I'm Grantia.
In
No,
Grantry, yeah.
that's it.
I
And
would I
the,
so if you have an OT assessed to you and you're ringing about yourself, definitely ring and ask to speak to them. But see if somebody doesn't get back to you within a couple of days, I would ring again. Because I know that sometimes, say if people are part-time or in and out or anything like that.
Mhm. Well,
But no, definitely ring again.
I was going to ring up then I knew you were coming on this week to just get advice from you.
No, well, definitely, as I say, just if you're sort of waiting to hear back from somebody and you haven't heard anything, definitely chase them up again because say sometimes I know it's not ideal. Sometimes things can get lost in translation and stuff. So definitely ring again. Is there anything like specific that you were asking them that I could try and help with,
Well,
or
it was reference all based on Trish to come out and assess her and her needs and stuff like
what's
that.
a referral for her as such? Yeah. So it's just about putting in a referral for her, and I would just ring again and say you were just want. They maybe already have her on the waiting list, so it's maybe just ringing to check. Did they get that? Can you just check it's on? And if not, then just chasing that up to make sure it is on the waiting list.
Well, Dr. Shirley, she says, to give them a ring again and get on to them.
Yeah, definitely do. I know, and I know that sometimes it's annoying whenever you don't hear anything back, but as I say, just keep pounding because that's the best way to get through.
Yeah.
That's great, Emma. Thanks. No, I'll
Emma,
give them a ring today after this group meeting. I'll give them a ring.
Definitely do.
Right, thank you.
Emma, I was just going to say, when you come out to the house and you were talking about the perching stool, and I was sort of very reluctant to use it, and you said, well, look, you know, you might need it or not. And then, so my husband was there and he says, well, why don't you just try it? And if you're not happy, well, can hand it back. And I
Yeah.
took it and I use it all the time. I use it all the time. I use it in the bathroom for doing my teeth. And also, I use it at the kitchen table, you know, like for peeling potatoes and messing about that way, or if something, you know, so I don't get as tired or as breathless.
Yeah.
So your advice was very welcome, and I'm using away at it. So it's
No,
just
and I think
as an example.
I think it's all that's and I said that to you. I understand it's all well and good me coming in and being like, oh, you need this, 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 and this, and this. But whenever you've never needed any of this sort of stuff, it can be very overwhelming, and especially if you're, well, it doesn't really matter where you're at in your sort of stage of diagnosis. If it's too much for you, it is too much. So that's why I'm always very much like, try it. See after a week or a couple of days or anything like that. If you don't like it, you can ring and ask for it to be removed. So it is. I also always say to people, I think you're better looking at it than looking for it. But at the same time, it very much is your decision. We will never force anything on you. We'll only suggest things that we think will help. But 9 times out of 10, whenever you do try it and you think, oh, well, actually, this is quite good, and you see, sometimes it's very hard for us to explain and say, well, this is what it'll help with. I think it's more when you actually use the thing, and you see, oh, actually, that does save my energy. I maybe only was sitting down for 5 minutes to brush my teeth, but it then gave me the energy to go and make myself a cup of tea or something. So it's all about just changing how you do certain things to make other tasks easier.
That's right. And I think a lot about me was about the cosmetic look of my house. Having a perching stool sitting about
Yeah.
sort of signaled that there's a disabled person living in the house. And I didn't like that signal.
Yeah.
And I had to get my head around that. And I'm sure,
That's so common. Like, as I always go out, because sometimes people are very much like, "Oh, no offense, but," and I'm like, look, I'm so aware that our stuff isn't the most aesthetically pleasing. But as I say, like, we don't take offense to that either. So we can I've plenty of people who, like, all of the equipment, as long as you have somebody that is in the house and is able to maybe like lift things off for you and things like that, like the toilet and equipment, a lot of people will be like, oh, my family come over at the weekend and I don't want that around the toilet. That's 100%. If somebody can, like, it's removable. So if somebody can maybe lift that off for the couple of hours that family are coming, excuse me, or whatever. So there's ways around things as well. And as I say, we absolutely understand that it is a big change, and it's your own home. So we understand that maybe the likes of maybe wanting to put out, like, we can suggest rails for the front door, but then sometimes people are like, oh, well, I don't like the idea of that. So a lot of the times I try and show people what things look like, and then they can make a decision whether they want to receive it at that stage or not. So, but no, it's, as I say, I definitely am. I'm very aware that it can be very overwhelming, sort of coming in and saying you need all of these things. But as long as people know you can't say no, but just know that all these things are available if and when you need them. Do you know that kind of way?
I'd say now, with the perching stool, I was sort of embarrassed at first that it was in the house, and now I don't care. You know, and it's been there that long. It's actually it's helping me. I'm able to do a lot more.
Yeah.
I don't think it looks that distasteful at all. You know, I think, why was I so annoyed about it? But I think it's just this, that you're moving further forward with your fibrosis. It's not just about the equipment. It's like there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's getting your head around all that as
And
well.
that's what I said to you at that stage, because it's very much trying to change your way of thinking.
Yeah,
It's not that we're giving you these things to take away your independence. It's the exact opposite. If
that's
we can
right.
if we can put these things in place to keep you doing all these things by yourself. So like sitting at the kitchen table on the perch and still to be able to do the meal prep so that somebody else doesn't have to do it for you, or so that you don't need to somebody to help you get on and off the toilet. All of these bits and pieces of equipment are to keep you, as I say, the main crux of what we do is to keep you as safe and as independent as possible. Independence is our big thing in occupational therapy. So that's the whole thing. Whether if a reel or a walking aid or a bit of equipment can help you do that, that's our main goal, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, that's it.
Emma, can I ask, what's the sort of average wait time between a referral and actually seeing an OT?
so everywhere is different. Even between so in the Northern Trust, like I'm in one wee team in Ballycastle, there's Coleraine and there's Ballymena. Everywhere's kind of different. Now the trust, I have the wee leaflet that we hand out in the Northern Trust. The target is obviously, they all talk about targets and numbers and all of that. The target is sort of what they would say 13 weeks. That can be more, that can be less. It changes all the time, just sort of on the needs of the service and the team, the area. And then I wouldn't even have a clue sort of even for the
No,
Belfast Trust or the Western Trust or anything. Now, everybody is obviously triaged on, there's different sort of like there's routine referrals and there's urgent referrals. So depending on the information that we would get, then it's triaged sort of based on that. But um, as I say, it really it's kind of just dependent on the referral. And as I say, our waiting list at the minute isn't too bad in Ballycastle, but I'm going to be going off on maternity leave, so that might change, that kind of way. So that's a really wishy-washy
no,
answer. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. No, that's fine. Thank you. My referral was only about 5 weeks ago, so they're well within their target at the minute.
But the thing is as well, just to remember, like if so you could have a referral put in and at the time of that referral it was maybe seen as just a routine referral. Depending on your needs, if say now we would obviously hope that this doesn't change, but say you start having falls or your medical condition changes dramatically to a more urgent nature, that's whenever we would always say you can contact the team just to update them on things. So like referrals can be upgraded, obviously if it meets criteria to be upgraded. But just if your circumstances change and you feel like you really need to be seen a lot more urgently,
Oh,
then
no, I think it
you can ring and talk to them.
would just be a standard referral. I don't think there's any great urgency, but it's, as you say, it's maybe to supply things that I might need a wee bit down the line rather than immediately.
Yeah.
But
And
no,
that
that's fine.
it's good then that you've been put on sort of the waiting list so that say by the time you get seen that maybe things have changed a wee bit, or as I say, it's maybe just to know by the time you get seen, okay, well, I maybe don't need this now, but in however long, at least I know that's available to me. Do you know, that kind of way? So
No, that's fine, Emma. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's
no
great.
problem.
Emma, do you mind if I just mention a couple of things? First of all, from what you're saying there, Emma, that would appear to me that the sooner you apply, the better. So if you're thinking about it, stop thinking about it and do it, because if you're looking for a minimum of 13 weeks, then, you know, it can be quite a while for people if they do need some assistance. But also if you are really struggling and approaching your GP, etc., and maybe getting an urgent referral because you do need something urgently. But the other point I was going to mention is that, we all are, you need an independent set of eyes looking at you, because quite often you become accustomed of struggling with something and maybe adapting different ways
Mhm.
to be able to do a task, and you don't realize how much you're actually struggling because you're doing it every day of the week and you find, like I say, different ways of doing it. But by bringing in a fresh pair of eyes and having a look at you and what you are doing, whether it's, your daily living, using the toilet, cooking, all these sorts of things that we all do every day of the week, it's important that you do it soon and you get somebody in that does have an expert eye that's looking at where you're having problems and can advise you on a better way of doing what you're doing. I know in our house, for example, like when I said, the aesthetics has got something to do it, but I think there's also a resistance because you feel that it's taking some of your independence away and it's making you don't really need that assistance and you feel a bit embarrassed, etc., by bringing equipment into the house. But I think you've got a quality of life is extremely important in this situation. And why should you be struggling whenever there's help available? So that's really all I wanted to say.
Yeah. And as I say, it's all just about sort of changing your thinking around it, and that the last thing that anybody wants to do is take your independence away. It's better for everybody if we keep your independence, do you know, that kind of way. So, and if you're doing things in a more safe way, it's all about trying to keep you safer and reduce the risk of your falls. And because the last thing you want to be doing is having a fall or putting yourself in situations where you are getting it more and more extremely out of breath, because the last place you want to be is hospital or anything like that. So um but it's just knowing that the help is there if you need it.
Mhm. No, thanks, Emma. Is there any other questions?
All good.
No? Everybody happy?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you,
Thank
Emma.
you, Emma. Really appreciate that.
No problem at all. I'm sure
Thank you.
hopefully it gave you a wee bit of it was definitely a very quick fire introduction into community OT, but hopefully you found it useful. So
We did.
good. No, that's no problem. Well, I have to go back